A British man who was part of a group of Islamic State fighters dubbed the Beatles has just been sentenced. Our correspondent David Blevins is at the court in Alexandria in Virginia. David, bring us up to speed.
Alexander Kotey left his home in London, went to Syria where he joined ISIS, was eventually detained, ended up in a US courtroom where in the last few minutes he has been sentenced to life without parole. He will never be a free man again. His co-accused, El-Shafi El-Sheikh, had denied involvement in a major hostage-taking operation but was found guilty by a jury here. And while he will not be sentenced himself until later this year, the judge did insist that he be in court today to hear victim impact statements from the families of those who were so cruelly taken. Many people will remember the murder of the American journalist Jim Foley, freelance journalist who'd gone to Syria to document the impact of the war on the lives of civilians there. His killing, which was captured on video, released to the world, really introduced all of us to the brutality of an organisation we now know as ISIS. There were many other victims, 2 American journalists, 2 US aid workers and 2 British aid workers, David Haines and Alan Henning. Now, the 2 men who were standing before the judge today basically had repeatedly attempted to excuse their crimes. They did that in a series of television interviews, including one for Sky News. But their victims' families today made it very clear to them what damage they had done in a series, one by one, of harrowing victim impact statements. They paid tribute to their relatives. They talked about the impact of losing them on their own mental and physical health. And the mother of one hostage insisted that the 2 men look her in the eye as she talked about the pain they had caused her. But I think perhaps the most memorable moment in the courtroom today was when David Haines' brother Mike, who has travelled here from the UK to look the 2 men in the eye, delivered his victim impact statement and ended it with the words, "I forgive you." So El-Shafi El-Sheikh will be sentenced later in the year. The 3rd man in this terror cell, Mohammed Imwazi, was killed in a terror strike. They had covered their faces to try and avoid prosecution, but ultimately it was their English accents that revealed their identity. That's why hostages came to know them as the Beatles, and why one of them ended up pleading guilty, another one has been found guilty. And just to recap on the breaking news, Alexander Kotey has now been sentenced to life without parole. The judge described it as a heinous crime and said he would consider Mr. Kotey's request to serve half of his sentence here in the United States and the other half in a British prison.
OK, David, many thanks for breaking news there. Terrorist Alexander Kotey jailed for life in the US.